Hello and welcome to Sportspage. I'm Brad Hadank. In this program, I will sit down with various University of Central Missouri athletes, coaches, and supporting staff. These individuals help make Mules and Jenny's athletics a success. Today, Mules Golf joins the show. This is Sportspage. Our first guest today is Mules Golf head coach Tim Poe. Coach Poe has been instrumental in making Mules Golf one of the top programs in all of Division II. Coach Poe is also an alumni of Central Missouri and continues to lead Mules Golf now for the 35th season. Coach Poe, welcome to Sportspage. Thanks for joining us.
Good to be here, Brad.
So first off, could you just take me through this spring season up to this point, 19th in Las Vegas, then back-to-back third place finishes. Could you take me through how you feel about those finishes?
Well, I feel wind blown. Seems like every tournament we've played this year, we've battled some pretty good wind out in Vegas. Not our best showing out there. All the teams we played had played 2 or 3 events. That was our first one of the year, being late February, early March. So we hadn't really played a lot of golf outside to that point. So I just kind of owe that one or put that up to a little bit of competitive rust. But last 2 tournaments have been better. Not our best golf, but can't complain with third place finishes when we're playing 15 to 18 teams every week.
And looking back at the fall side of the season, you had 1 5th place finish, you had 3 second places, and 1 first place team finish. What was your team executing well, especially in the fall?
Well, I think they all came off a pretty good summer. That always helps when they've played summer tournaments and all had good finishes and had some confidence coming in, and really I think just being sharp coming in, and the guys just really played well. Could it have been better? Maybe a little bit, but never going to complain with top finishes like we had last fall. The win was a good one to get there at Tulsa. It's always nice to finish the season on a win, to have some confidence going into the spring and the winter.
And a lot of people who are more outside of the sport of golf may wonder, during a tournament, what exactly do you do as the coach? So could you take our viewers through what you're doing?
I've always been a coach that kind of camps out on the par 3s. I've never had an assistant. We're fortunate enough to have Jessica Green with us now to help. She kind of wanders around on the golf course, tries to help the guys maybe that are struggling a little bit. But I've always been a proponent of sitting on the par 3s. I've always felt like on a par 4, if you hit a bad shot, you can still recover and make 4. Same on a par 5. You get in a little bit of trouble, you can get yourself out of it and still make par. Par 3s, you don't have the luxury of that. So I've always felt like it's important to give the guys yardage, give them wind, what we think the shot's playing, and try to give them a good target. And usually they kind of all know what each other hit, comparative to each other. So if they want to know what, if Brooks wants to know what CJ hit, I can tell him, and he can kind of compare, well, I'm a club shorter or longer, whatever, and kind of go with that. So just trying to get them confident on those par 3s, because I feel like that's where you can really make up some ground on those.
And you mentioned Jessica Green, your assistant coach. Mm-hmm. Could you take me through more of her impact on this team? Well,
it's been great to have. The more eyes you can have out there, the better, I've always said. I just feel like, with 5 guys, one coach can't be in 5 places at a time. So it's just been nice to have her being out there to, we've kind of set it up where she kind of sits on the par 5s, because we feel like you can really make up some ground on some par 5s. Although we haven't played those that well this year, we still feel like it's important. So she'll kind of sit on the par 5s, kind of help them with their second shot, and whether we go for it or not, or lay up. And but she's been a great addition to our program, and the Jenny's program too. National Women's Assistant of the Year last year, so she's made a huge impact for both teams, and we love having her. And yeah, she's just been great.
And earlier you talked about playing in the wind earlier this spring. How does that help you prepare as you get later on into this season?
Well, if you can play in the wind, you can play in just about anything, in my opinion. Wind is tough. You know, you think you know direction, and the way it's been this year, it just seems like wherever we've been, it's been more of a swirling wind. So it's just tough to kind of get it nailed down as to, you know, what kind of shots you're going to hit. You know, you feel like the wind may be into you and off the right, but then it, you know, ends up coming off the right hard. So it's just tough mentally to kind of to get through it. But I feel like, you know, hopefully it's prepared us to be ready for, you know, late spring when hopefully the wind dies a little bit. But it just, you know, our scores have been a little higher, and the, you know, the results of the tournaments have been a lot higher. I mean, you look at some of the scores of the winning teams, and they've been several over par, where usually, you know, we're down in that even par, maybe even lower. I think the course we played at Pittsburgh, no wind, you know, I told the guys I felt like probably 10 to 15 under would probably win it team-wise, and it was well over par. So it just tells you the effect that wind can have. But it's just more, you know, trying to be positive. Obviously, you got to try to keep the ball down a little bit lower. And so, you know, this year we've had a lot of practice because there's been a lot of wind, you know, even in our practice days. So, yeah, wind is tough. As Brooks said earlier, you know, rain's not that bad if you don't have the wind. I mean, you just keep yourself dry, keep your hands dry, and, you know, it's tough as well. But wind, just, it's so unpredictable. If it's raining, you know it's raining, it's not doing anything else. But if it's windy, you just never know.
Looking at your roster this season, especially the top 5, you've had some fluctuation through the fall and the spring. What ends up deciding who goes to a tournament?
Well, we normally qualify. We'll send the guys out. I usually have a big qualifier early in the fall, early in the spring. Usually try to play, you know, anywhere from 8 to 10 rounds. And usually low 5 of that big qualifier go. And then as we go through the season, if we have some time, you know, we'll try to do more qualifying. Hopefully, what we hope is the team plays well enough that where we can exempt the team and keep the team the same. If some, you know, an individual doesn't play as well, we might qualify for one spot. So, you know, you've seen probably that our team has fluctuated a little bit. So we've been qualifying for different spots, but so that's kind of how we determine who's going in the lineup. But then as we get late in the year and we get close to postseason, then I'm kind of taking a lot of factors in, looking at the entire season, who's performed well kind of all the way through, who's been consistent. So usually, you know, I'm making the call, making the choice kind of at the end on who I think we need to take in leading into the conference championship and regionals. As
a coach, how do you handle that, like in the locker room, the team dynamics? I believe you have 12 on your roster, 5 get to play, and I know it's true for about any sport, but truly in golf, your team is really competing against themselves first and foremost to try to get those spots. How do you deal with that dynamic?
Well, I think, you know, they all understand it. I think it probably was not a whole lot different than what they dealt with in high school. I mean, you know, high school teams, you know, usually have 8 to 10, so they're competing against one another. But then I think the main thing is that once that competition is over amongst themselves, that they're all supportive of each other. I mean, we're trying to do one common thing, and that's win championships. So, yeah, it gets competitive, but I think that's what's made our program good over the years. We've been very deep. We've had 10 to 12 players that competing very hard against each other and pushing each other, and I think that's what's made our program pretty solid over the year. I think, you know, this year we maybe had 9 different players in our lineup in the top 5, and we have 11 on the team. So, you know, it just kind of shows the depth that we do have, and I think that's a good thing. I mean, it's tough on the guys. I know they all want to play. They're all very competitive and want to play, but you know, they got to keep pushing each other, and then once that's over, then we got to root for each other and hope for the best. And it's tough as a coach. You know, you want everybody to play. That's why you recruit them. You think they're going to end up at some point playing for you. So you'd love to have everybody playing, but that's just the way it is. We only travel with 5, sometimes 6. Sometimes we might take 2 teams, you know, 10 guys. If we got a lot of guys playing well, it's always nice to have, you know, 2 teams go to a tournament. I think a lot of times you see, we only play one course in qualifying most of the time. At spring break, we played 2 or 3, but when you're only playing one course all the time, I think the upperclassmen maybe have a little advantage because they've seen the golf course for 2 or 3 years, where, you have a freshman coming in that's maybe only seen it a couple times. So when you take 2 teams or a couple individuals, they may be gamers. They may play better, away from our home golf course. But that's just that's a good problem to have. I think that we just have that competitiveness amongst the group.
Looking at what's coming up for Mules Golf, you have the Firekeeper Open on April 6th and 7th. Then after that, you have the MIAA Men's Golf Championship. I want to start with the Firekeeper Open because last season for Mules Golf, I'm sure you'd agree, it wasn't the greatest finish, wasn't what you were looking for. How do you turn that around this year?
Well, I think we have some guys that have played it, so I think that we have a little experience on there. It's a golf course where it's kind of a tale of 2 stories. You got several holes that are kind of wide open, linksy type golf courses, and then you kind of get in on the back and you get into some trees and it's tight. So, I think experience out there will play good for us. We've been trending. I feel like Brooks obviously has played very well for us this spring. CJ has been a very solid player for us in his career here. So. They both have been playing well. We've seen some good things out of the middle of our lineup, and I just hope it all trends when we need it to. But Firekeeper is a great golf course. They run great tournaments out there. It's been one of the top courses in Kansas. Have a lot of big amateur events out there as well. So we'll just go in there, play a good practice round, and hopefully come out on top.
And after the Firekeeper Open last season, your team got right back on track, performed well at the MIAA Men's Golf Championships. You went to a regional, you went to the NCAA D2 Men's Golf Championship. The MIAA tournament this year is back at Jeff City Country Club. Do you have any initial thoughts on that course in Jeff City? Well,
I think of any of the teams probably in the MIAA, I think we probably have more experience there. Brooks played it a lot in high school. Some of our guys have kind of played it throughout the year. We're limited on how much we can play it, but one of our freshmen is from there, so we've had the opportunity to get over there a few times. But everybody loves the golf course, old traditional, tree lined, which I think suits our make I think we're a team that gets it in the fairway most of the time, so that's key out there. If you get it in the fairway, you're set up to make some birdies. But love the golf course. We played well there last year, so I think we ought to have a lot of confidence going in to that golf course. Look forward to it. Obviously, Central Oklahoma's been very strong this year. They got a veteran team. But we were beating them after the first round last week, so I hope that gives our guys a little confidence that, hey, we can compete with these guys. I think they're number 5 in the country right now, so we can play with the best of them. We just need to be confident going in, and don't know much about where we're going for regionals. Never seen that golf course. It's hard to believe in my career that this long that we've never been up there, but look forward to seeing that. I think we have a pretty good shot of getting there, and we'll see what happens up there for nationals.
And while we have just a few more moments looking towards the MIAA Men's Golf Championship and the postseason, what's the big key from your team to find success?
Well, I think at Jeff City, as I said, I think you just got to get it set up to make birdie, and that's hitting fairways out there. By now, I'd say the rough, well, especially with this rain that we've had, I'd say the rough's going to be pretty thick. Their greens are always pretty fast, so get it in the fairway, I think, is the key, and just playing with a lot of confidence. I think we got a good shot at it. Like I said, we're trending. I think some guys are really playing some good golf right now, so I look for good things over there.
Well, Coach, thanks for taking some time today.
Appreciate it. Good to be here.
We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll meet Mules golfer Brooks Baldwin. We're back right after this. Welcome back to Sportspage. In this next segment, we are joined by UCM golfer Brooks Baldwin. Brooks is a redshirt senior who is a native of Warrensburg, Missouri. He was recently named the MIAA Golfer of the Week for the week of March 17th through 24th for his 54-hole total of 12 over 228 at the Arkansas Collegiate. Brooks, welcome to Sportspage.
Thanks for having me.
So you're a native of right here in Warrensburg. What made you come back to UCM in Warrensburg?
The culture, UCM, since Coach Poe's been here, has built an incredible resume of wins and runs in the postseason. And growing up around that, my dad playing for him, that's all you hear about being in Warrensburg. And so I was eager to eventually get back to Warrensburg and play for Coach Poe and make those special runs that I'd been hearing about my entire life.
You talked about your father, Darren, playing golf here at UCM. Could you talk about how your family has shaped your golf journey?
I wouldn't be here without, his support. He's taught me everything I know when it comes to golf. When it comes to swing, putting, mental, even though it isn't the best at times. But he's been my ultimate supporter and helped me along the way to get to where I am now.
Back in the 90s, Coach Poe coached your dad, Darren. Was that an instant connection between you and Coach? Yeah,
Coach has known me since I, was an infant and has watched me grow throughout my golf career. And so it had influence on me to eventually want to be good enough to play at UCM, even though I felt like at times in high school I wasn't. And that's maybe why I didn't come here straight out of high school. But eventually, whenever I felt like I was good enough to compete here and play for Coach Poe, it was an automatic yes for me to come back and play.
And the 1995 Mules golf team is in the UCM Athletics Hall of Fame. Darren, your dad, led the squad shooting, he won by 10 shots, the individual title there. I want to ask you about you playing against your dad. Have you beat your dad? What does that look like?
I beat my dad quite often. Now I'd say every 12 rounds he'll probably beat me once, which I'll take. He's still a really solid player, and I wasn't able to beat him until probably I was a junior in high school. So I take a lot of pride in being able to beat him now, and especially being the player he used to be. But people ask me that all the time, and we have a good argument about who is a better college player. I'm still not done. I've still got some time to, have some success and have a bigger argument at the table. But he was a great player and definitely someone I've been able to look up to all throughout my college career.
Now, looking at this season, looking at the spring thus far, how do you evaluate your individual performances through these first three tournaments?
Obviously I can't complain about two back-to-back top 5 finishes. Our play in Vegas, like Coach said earlier, wasn't necessarily what we hoped for, but there was some knocking of the rust off, I think. I do think I'm yet to scratch my potential. It seems like these past 2 tournaments, there's always 1 or 2 swings or stretch of holes that I just haven't played well as, the guy that finishes first, second, or third. And so it's exciting to know that whenever I really get it all clicking, maybe I can come away with a win. But like I said, back-to-back top 5 finishes I'll never complain about.
And some tournament days can be long days. Normally day 1 you're playing 36 holes. How do you get through that?
A lot of snacks, a lot of self-talks. Playing in wind, rain, whatever it may be, it's never going to be easy, and you have to mentally prepare yourself for that going into it. Finishing that first 18, it's got to be a complete switch of the flip mentally that, that one's over, you got to move on to this next one.
And something people don't think about is you're walking these 36 holes as well. Not that you're just playing in the elements, you're walking in them too. How do you stay conditioned for that?
Well, we do our team workouts 3 times a week, and I'd say by the time postseason rolls around, you're conditioned well enough to play in those, type of environments. And this being my 5th year in college, I'm used to it now. The days get long, but mentally you have to just push yourself through and find a way to get it done.
Take me through those workouts. What does that look like?
Well, it depends. Now, since we're kind of getting later in the season, it's more body preparation, stretching, yoga-based stuff. But, at the beginning of the spring, Avery, our weights coach, had us doing a lot of strengthening in the legs, the core. People always think you swing with your arms with a golf swing, and you don't. It's a lot of using the ground, and a lot of inner strength is what it takes, and so that's the kind of the stuff we work on.
You recently earned MIAA Golfer of the Week honors for March 17th through 24th that week. How did it feel to be recognized as the Golfer of the Week?
It felt really good. I kind of was in and out of the lineup in the fall, not hitting it nearly as good as I wanted to. My short game was kind of keeping me in the fight. So over the winter, I worked my tail off in the gym and on my golf swing to be able to get back on the 5 and do what I can for the team. So it's kind of cool to see some of that hard work pay off. It's not nearly the accomplishment I want to be known for. You know, I'd like to be known as a conference champion and helping the team in a national run, but it's something I can hang my hat on for now.
Yeah, take me through that national run.
Well, I wasn't on the team last year, but I could see how the guys came together and kind of put together something that I don't know that anybody on the team really saw. You know, they were, I can't remember how many under par at St. Joe Country Club, but you know, that's golf. You never know. You can't give up. You have to keep pushing forward because, you know, the next 5 holes you could birdie all 5 and then you're that right there in the top 4 and then off to nationals you go.
And you talked about it, seeing it more from behind the scenes last year. What can you take from that team to bring it into this season to go on a run?
It's we before me. You know, golf is an individual sport, but at the end of the day, you come to Central Missouri for team success. I feel like that's the way I looked at it. You know, I was a solid golfer in high school, but I always wanted to come here because of the team, not because of myself. So seeing how the 5 guys can put aside their own individual accolades and just solely care about how the team does, I think is what truly got that team to go on that run and eventually to the national title.
And you're clearly a very accomplished golfer. Do you ever have people come up to you when you're practicing or playing looking for some tips?
More than I want, sadly. You know, being from Warrensburg, I see a lot of people that I know from high school or whatever it may be come out there and talk to me while we're at practice. I always try and keep it simple, you know, because the golf swing can get super technical, but for beginner golfers especially, if I can come up with some analogy that they would know from it, whether it be from another sport or, you know, something in everyday life, I feel like that's what would help the everyday golfer that asks me for tips out at the golf course.
I know you said more than you'd like, but now I'm going to become that guy. Could you take our viewers through, I mean, if you're an average golfer, what have you seen that really can take it to the next level to see someone go low?
I mean, keeping it in play. You know, everyone loves to hit driver on the range, and that's fine, but driver doesn't necessarily keep you in the middle of the hole every time. You know, so a lot of people hit the big slice or whatever it may be, but keep putting it in play, and I know this sounds cliche, but get it in the hole. You know, chipping, putting, that's really what where your money's made. As long as you can keep it on the planet off the tee, you got a shot at making par.
And in the postseason, how do you see the pressure changing when there's a lot more on the line? How do you deal with that?
Yeah, that's a good question. You know, I'm a big talker whenever I play with the guys I play with, but when it comes postseason, everyone gets pretty quiet and nitty gritty. But I mean, that's why you choose to play college golf. It's for that competitive nature. That's what makes it fun. You know, you sign up to come to UCM to play in those type of tournaments against the players that we play against. So I try not to look at it as nerves. It's more of a this is why I came here.
And you've played under pressure before. Earlier in your career, a couple years ago, you made the quarterfinals of the Missouri Amateur Championship. Could you take me through that experience and how it shaped you to where you are today?
It was actually probably one of the more memorable golf experiences of my life. You know, I went into that tournament hitting it really, really bad, but kind of just decided I was gonna, you know, battle my rear end off, and ended up shooting even par in the stroke play portion, and then had my dad come and caddy for me for match play, and beating 2 mid-am champions, one of which was a former MIAA coach's, was a really, really cool experience. Again, having my dad on the bag was something me and him will be able to cherish for forever, and even then I feel like my best golf had been yet to be played and still is yet to be played, so that's really exciting moving forward.
Yeah, tell me a little more about your dad being your caddy, because in college golf, you don't get a caddy. What's the big difference there?
I mean, just someone there, you know, a second voice for, especially when things are not going your way. You know, like obviously I was playing really, really good, but I still had my stretch of bad holes or, you know, bad swings, and having that second person there to motivate, and, you know, everyone thinks, oh, caddy's just there to help you pick a club or read greens. You know, I had him there more from my mental side. You know, that's my dad's. He's probably the one person that's gonna keep me mentally sane more than anybody. So that was a major help, and I wish I could have him there for every tournament, but it's not really how it works.
And I know you don't want to move past the Firekeeper Open that's coming up, but if you look through the rest of the season into the postseason, is there one big key for yourself that you want to see here late?
Definitely how we finish. You know, Coach Post said earlier this last week we were in after the first round and into the second, and I feel like our team's good enough to do that every week. It's just how are we going to finish the tournament off? You know, we haven't finished hardly, or I haven't in my collegiate career felt like I've played my best golf in the final rounds, and so that's something I really, really want to get into coming forward, is making sure I'm closing out my tournaments strongly.
You've talked a lot about the team mentality. Someone who doesn't know much about Mules golf this year, what would you want them to know?
Be ready to get to work. You know, it's everything that you're given at UCM you need to earn, and whether that's playing on the 5 or, you know, qualifying, the 5 guys that travel have earned it, fully earned it, and that's, I think, why we play so well at tournaments, is because the 5 guys that are playing there know that they're playing good enough to be on the 5, and they've earned the spot that they're at.
Well, Brooks, we really appreciate the time this morning.
Thank you for having me.
That's all of the time we have for this episode. I'd like to thank our guests, Coach Tim Poe and Brooks Baldwin, for joining me today. My name's Brad Hadank, and I thank you for tuning in to Sportspage.